Thank you for joining us. Among the many subjects we cover, one of the most important concerns is certainly our health. The RAADfest 2021 conference on health and age reversal just took place online with prominent scientists, doctors, and authors, and the following outstanding keynote presentation by Bill Faloon.
WebMD is a rather conservative website. They talk about conventional medicine quite a bit, but they don't treat alternative medicine very well. I was shocked. February 2021, they talked about what we're doing to reverse engineer our biological clock and what our goal is. We don't merely want to eliminate disease. We're seeking to prevent death itself. And they brought out some examples, the immortal jellyfish and lobsters that seemingly live forever because they secrete this youthful enzyme. And this chart that appeared on the WebMD website, this is not Life Exchange's website or Age Reversal Network, this is WebMD predicting by around the year 2065 that people may be living to around 1,000 years of age. And again, I emphasize, this is WebMD projecting that based on what's happening now and what we anticipate happening very soon, people are going to live a lot longer. This is almost independent validation of everything RAADfest has stood for since our inception. Wall Street Journal gave some really nice coverage to CRISPR in February about how it's going to defeat viruses and genetic diseases, enable people to live a long time. But then they criticized the fact that we may start making children smarter. George Church gave a nice rebuttal, and I'll paraphrase that. And he said something to the effect, well, who doesn't want smarter kids? And who would want a child who has learning disabilities, depression, other mental health issues? If CRISPR can prevent this from the beginning and make kids smarter, well, that's a fantastic technology, and it should be expanded on. So here we now have CRISPR being validated as effective and people raising moral questions. So CRISPR, clustered, regularly interspaced, short, palindromic repeats. This is our ticket to potential biological immortality. And this is the study that I talked about in the Wall Street Journal in January, in which they used a simple gene editing technique to more than double the lifespan of CRISPR-treated mice. The unedited mouse on the left, it looks old, 7.5 months old, and it's about to die. The ones on the right are CRISPR-edited mice. They behaved young at 11 months. They were running around a cage. They looked healthy. They weren't even appearing to be normal aged or progeroid aged, I should say, even though they were progeroid mice. And they get to live about 17 months, more than 2.5 times. And this wasn't complicated. All they did is they inserted a DNA base editor into an inactivated virus, and they switched the toxic progeroid genes, that's T and A red at the bottom, with some healthy C and G genes. And by doing this, they were able to achieve this remarkable benefit. But just to reiterate, they took a DNA base editor, put it into an activated virus, and then infected the progeroid mice with that virus. And the genes, the A and T, which are the progeroid genes, were replaced by the beneficial G and C blue genes. And this enabled the CRISPR-treated mice to live about 510 days compared to the unedited group of only 215 days. And again, an optimistic extrapolation, if we can do this in people, well, we're looking at about 160 years of life as opposed to the 80 years we're supposed to live now. The great news is George Church has already done it. A single dose of combination gene therapy yielded all of these benefits. And it's generated lots and lots of media coverage for George Church. I've shown these before at RAADfest. He's gotten incredible publicity, just absolutely incredible publicity. And other research into CRISPR is showing, well, if you modulate your genes, edit your genes, you can probably discard a lot of the medications you're taking because it'll keep your lipids and other pathological factors under control without having to take a bunch of pills. This is really incredible. The New York Times in March did a nice book review about two scientists who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2020 for their CRISPR-Cas9 research in engineering humans to better resist disease. This is getting national and international recognition that we are transcending towards radically extended healthy human lifespans. Now, we know about Dr. Barzilai. He is spearheading the metformin clinical trial at the Albert Einstein School of Medicine. That's been reported on quite a bit. He made a really surprising announcement in April 2021 that he expects very soon for $1 billion a year to become available to stop aging. This is mainly, he thinks, Mideast money in which they recognize writing $1 billion check is going to do nothing. It's got to be $1 billion every year until aging itself is cured. This is incredible news. In other words, the work we're doing to get the publicity and get the scientific community together and people start reading about the fact that we might be able to cure aging, they're starting to consider putting serious money into this happening. So the metformin study, it was approved in 2015. Nobody ever thought we'd get any funding. And the good news is, in March of 2021, a second metformin study was approved to treat frailty. This is based in San Antonio, by the way. Albert Einstein School of Medicine's in New York City. And, well, a third trial on metformin, on taking the metformin plus healthy eating and exercise to see if it can also reduce frailty, improve markers of senescence in older people. So what was first challenged is whether or not the FDA would ever approve a study on a drug to deal with aging. Not only did they approve the first metformin study, they approved 2 more. 3 metformin studies going on right now to see if it can slow or reverse biological aging. And well, we already know it can help because Greg Fahey reported in 2019 at RAADfest that you combine metformin with DHEA and growth hormone for a year, you get to reverse aging, 2.5 biological years. Fantastic. This generated international media coverage, and it's one of the reasons why money is starting to come out of the pockets of wealthy people because they want to see their aging process go in reverse. Now, we've been talking about metformin since 1995 in our Life Extension magazine. The FDA, of course, went berserk when we did stuff like this, but it didn't matter. We needed to save lives and let people know they could get metformin and other medications that could enable them to live longer, and we continue to talk about the benefits of metformin, including potential ways of preventing cancer using metformin and using it as an adjuvant cancer treatment. So the problem is the delays. Metformin was approved in England in 1958. We listed it as an anti-aging drug in 1995. It took 20 years for someone to put together a study to get the FDA to approve it to treat aging, and no one thought it would get any money, but it did in 2019, $75 million. Including $40 million from an anonymous donor. So that is way too much time for something to be discovered before it's tested in people. And this is the major impediment to us advancing the science into the clinical arena. Bureaucratic delays. We've got to break down these barriers so that we can gain immediate access to any therapy that can potentially reverse our aging process. So again, moving forward chronologically from last year's RAADfest, a potential shortcut until CRISPR is perfected, a way of highly specifically altering DNA methylation patterns to turn on those beneficial genes and silence the ones that cause us to prematurely age. They call this CRISPR-2, and while it's not exactly CRISPR, it's a way of using DNA methylation to activate those beneficial pro-youth genes and turn off the ones that are causing us to degenerate and age prematurely. Now, here's an individual who I have a lot of respect for, Michael Grieve. He's putting in some big money to study a broad spectrum of therapies that could enable us to reverse aging in people today. Congratulations, Michael Grieve, for doing this. Rapamycin, we've talked about this for years at RAADfest, and a study came out in April showing it can help with Alzheimer's, at least if you're a mouse. We think rapamycin can help with a broad range of diseases. And the great news is a study that I announced last year, they had everything in place to do the study, but they had no money. And by virtue of me announcing it, some other publicity, they've raised $485,000. This is spectacular, and it's going to enable them to enroll study subjects at a low cost of only $360. I'm going to talk more about this study tomorrow at the clinical trials presentation that I'm doing. But the good news is the rapamycin study has gotten funding and people can participate at a very low cost. Senolytics, well, these are beneficial for every part of our body. But if we're suffering any type of kidney dysfunction, especially early stage renal failure, maybe senolytic treatment could get rid of the senescent cells in the kidneys and improve your kidney function. Anyone suffering from a kidney disorder should consider some experimental senolytic treatments that are being made available around the country. And great news as it relates to senolysis, the removal of senescent cells. The Buck Institute announced in June that they have been able to precisely measure the destruction of senescent cells in response to different senolytic combinations. And the USDA is funding research right now at Tufts University to make this measuring technology available to people, measuring the ability of senolytic drugs and nutrients to destroy senescent cells. We're partnering with the people at Tufts, our age reversal network, to assist in getting humans into clinical trials where we give them different senolytic drugs and nutrients and see how well we can measure the senolytic benefit of those nutrients, drugs, and other compounds. This is really breakthrough news that we're seeing. SIR2 overexpression, it's been shown to extend life in mice way back in 2012. 2021, study confirms that. Median lifespan extended along with maximum lifespan by boosting a SIR2 protein in our cells. So how can we do that now? Well, eat well. Olive oil, fasting, healthy vegetables that contain high levels of cyanidins, these all help raise the SIR2 protein in our cells, and we already know they're good for us anyway. So healthy diet can help us derive the kind of benefits shown in this study. So amyloidosis, this is a protein misfolding disorder. There's a number of different types. This particular one I'm going to talk about is transthyretin amyloidosis, where lots of misfolded transthyretin proteins are circulated through the body. They destroy the heart, our digestive tract, our liver. It's a horrible, horrible disease. And guess what? CRISPR, for the first time in a human trial, was shown to reduce serum levels of this destructive transthyretin misfolded protein by 87%. This is the first time in vivo, whole human research using CRISPR has been able to treat a very serious disorder. It opens up the floodgates to using CRISPR to treat a whole lot of other genetic related diseases. In the U.S. military, they're testing NAD precursors to see if it can enhance performance and endurance level in military personnel. That's rather important. But you learned about NAD boosting therapies way back in 2014. And you also learned that, well, when we get older, at age 50, we only have about half the NAD we had at age 20. And by age 80, well, we don't have hardly any at all. And it's why a lot of people, unfortunately around 80, start to lose their youth, their vitality, and their very, very life. The value of targeting aging. This was published just a couple months ago in Nature Aging, and it showed that if we can improve human life expectancy just 1 year, it's worth 38 trillion. If we can do it by 10 years, and we're looking to improve it a lot more than 10 years, 367 trillion to the U.S. economy. This solves the Medicare cost crisis and all the other unfunded liabilities this country is facing. And the great news is this kind of data has prompted at least a proposed federal budget, $6.5 billion, to study what they call gerosciences. They want to figure out a way to improve human life expectancy to save the federal government and private and public insurance companies a lot of money. This is all trending in the favor of what we've been advocating for decades at Life Extension and well since 2016 at RAADfest. Now, the GDF-11 being used by some people already, but I helped fund a company in 2016, and they partnered with Harvard to bring GDF-11 to humanity. 2018 they started. I gave them a $100,000, essentially a grant just to get them started, and I was impressed. In August 2021, they raised $20 million, with $20 million more when the first patient is dosed with GDF-11. They're looking to enhance stroke recovery, treat obesity, type 2 diabetes, intracranial hemorrhages using GDF-11. Think if you have this in your body already, maybe you can prevent a lot of these problems from happening. We can't wait till this research comes out and we see how well it works. Sergey Young, he's got this longevity vision fund that invests in all kind of promising technologies aimed at enabling people to live many hundreds of years. We love people who are looking to make money at enabling us to live longer. It's an incredible mission statement, and we compliment Sergey Young and many others for following through on this technology. This study came out just about a month ago, and it showed that if you give long-term senolytic treatment to mice, it prevents intravertebral disc degeneration. And this is what causes chronic back pain and disability in people not just old but middle age. But nonetheless, we're continuing to see the benefits of senolytics in treating a host of degenerative disorders that people suffer from. And September, wow, was I surprised. I'm checking out at Whole Foods and I see Prevention Magazine. The cover talks about slowing down aging. And when I bought the magazine and opened it up, wow, everything we've been talking about at RAADfest, fasting, metformin, senolytics, everything was talked about favorably in prevention. And if you wonder why I'm so impressed, well, prevention, since their inception and our inception, we've kind of not agreed. They have not even let Life Extension advertise in their magazine. They didn't like the idea we were trying to slow aging. They thought that was unnatural. They hated the idea we were trying to reverse it. They didn't like the idea we were trying to live hundreds of years. So they censored us. They would not let us in their magazine. And now they've come across to, well, agree with what we're doing and publish something that's extremely favorable. And I compliment them for doing this. We're garnering more and more mainstream people who are recognizing the technologies that we are pioneering have real-world applicability, and reversing aging, not a bad thing at all. So what we're doing is rewriting the rules of biology. 2006, this is what the Yamanaka factors were able to accomplish, and the Nobel Prize was awarded. They were able to reprogram old cells into young cells. In 2011, they were able to take cells from 100-year-old people and reprogram them back down into the induced pluripotent state. And we now are engaged in funding research that will attempt to do this in whole organisms, including people. And what has happened over the last, 15 years, the impossible has been transformed into biological reality. And we're conveying that message. We're getting the message out so people know that aging and death are not necessarily unavoidable. Biological rejuvenation is now something that's occurring in the laboratory model. We just need to translate that into human research, which again is why I funded this review of all the studies involving cellular reprogramming, and with emphasis on the 6 transcription factor cocktail that fully reversed the degenerative changes and fully regenerated old 100-year-old cells back into induced autologous pluripotent stem cells. We've already got the technology to do this in vitro in the laboratory dish. We've got some in vivo evidence. It's time to move that into the human arena. And guess who picked up on it? September 4th. What a nice Labor Day gift. Jeff Bezos is teaming with another billionaire to put big money into age reversal research. It seems like Jeff wants to live forever. That's what the media talks about. And his new company with another billionaire, they are going to pursue the cellular reprogramming that we proposed in the article we had published in February of 2021 as a way to revitalize entire people. They are going to spend almost limitless amounts of money, and they've recruited people like Steve Horvath and Dr. Yamanaka to put a team together of the most brilliant scientists, give them a blue sky budget, and figure out a way to reverse the aging process. The bottom line is we're succeeding in reaching the upper echelons of the investment community. People who make the impossible happen, they now are focusing in on age reversal research with the objective, live forever. It's absolutely incredible. The media reported on it. Cellular reprogramming. What we're focused on, we've got Jeff Bezos also doing it. And we don't care who succeeds. We just want someone to succeed in our lifetime so we can grow biologically younger. And again, this is our schematic of how we plan to use the ability to transform old cells into induced pluripotent stem cells that are autologous, meaning they can be transplanted right back into the bone marrow niche of older people to regenerate them in a continuous way. This individual, very successful, a lot of money, but he's dead because he took a fall. We don't want that to happen. And this is what I'm running into. More and more of our aging supporters are delaying intervening into their aging process. They're also delaying funding age reversal research. They reach a point where they're hanging by a thread. And then they come to me and they say, well, I'm ready for it. And I say, you're too frail. I'm afraid to do anything with you because you may die during the intervention. So don't wait till you're hanging by a thread to consider doing something about biological aging. So as it relates to transhumanist advances, New England Journal of Medicine reports in July that for the first time, they took a stroke paralyzed patient and they connected a transmitter to his brain in a way that he could transmit words from his brain directly onto a computer screen. Wow, a brain implant in a stroke paralyzed patient talking, not with his mouth, his brain talking to a computer and it translating what he's thinking into words. Our human brain cloud interface expert, Nuno Martins, was very favorable about this type of technology, validating what he's doing to eventually translate our consciousness, our entire being into the cloud if we want it. And Dr. Martins, he had a publication back in 2019 in the Frontiers of Neuroscience that described exactly how human brains are going to be connected to the internet in the next few decades. In other words, we're going to have a backup copy of ourselves in the internet. In the meantime, use our connection, our implant in our brain to talk to the internet, just like we use our cell phones now to get a lot of information immediately. And this published study that Dr. Martin put out, it got a lot of media coverage. The idea of merging our brain with the cloud is something that people are starting to recognize. And what was interesting is Dr. Martin's publication on the human brain cloud interface, it attracted more views than 90% of 67 other Frontiers in Science journals. There was so much interest in this from, well, guess what? Apple, Google, Microsoft, everybody thought this is the future. Once we establish human brain cloud interfaces, then we don't need cell phones anymore. We'll have an automatic connection to the cloud. And well, July 2021, that's been confirmed. Elon Musk, he's got a new startup, raises $205 million from Google and others to develop a Neuralink where high bandwidth brain implants will communicate directly with computers and phones. Total investment in the company, $363 million. This is going to happen, and it helps fulfill the prediction of Ray Kurzweil. He talked about if we can just live to year 2045, we are going to merge the neocortex of our brain into the cloud. We're going to merge with the computer and then engage in limitless self-improvement cycles. And the result is going to be superintelligence that advances our abilities to the incomprehensible level of immortality. This is Ray Kurzweil's exit plan to achieve immortality, and it's being validated with research and money putting into this technology today. And for those who question if this is really going to happen, go back to 1903. Man had never been able to achieve heavier than air flight, and a glider with a little engine takes off and flies 120 feet. It makes international headline news. But the critics, and they're always out there, the naysayers, said this is never going to translate into anything meaningful. There will never be any such thing as flying buses. And 54 years later, they were proven wrong. Intercontinental jet air travel, just 54 years later, after the Wright brothers demonstrated you can really fly, they've got intercontinental jets flying all over the place. And then, well, 118 years later, we've got the rover landing on Mars. It wasn't the first time, but this rover had a helicopter on it. And this Wall Street Journal article kind of compared, well, here we were in 1903, man had never flown before, they prove it can work, and now we've got a rover all traveling around Mars with a helicopter that then flies around Mars and lands back on the rover and transmits data back on Earth. And by the way, we're controlling that all from Earth. This is robotic technology on Mars. So if you can see the analogies where until 1903, man had never flown. Once they show they can fly, then all kinds of expertise goes into developing technologies. So we go from 120 feet of Kitty Hawk to 140 million miles traveling to Mars. 2011, cells from a 100-year-old human were fully regenerated using transcription factors to reprogram the cells back into an embryonic stem cell phase where they can rejuvenate tissues throughout the body. 2022, we're looking to do large animal studies to see if we can use autologous induced pluripotent stem cells for systemic regeneration. Systemic regeneration. And I wasn't sure if I was going to show this slide, but I'm going to do it anyway. 1903, we fly. 2021, we're on Mars. Well, what if human lifespans could increase at the same rate as aviation and space travel? Well, the oldest living human died at age 122. Now, if we reach that escape velocity that Ray Kurzweil predicts, well, we could theoretically be living billions of years if the same numerical extrapolation is made. Just for the heck of it, I thought I'd throw that slide up there. This individual won't get to benefit because he's no longer around. And when you have a lot of money and you die, you no longer have any money. You don't have any legal ownership over it. It's now someone else's money. So if you have more money than what you need, I encourage you to donate money to organizations, charities that are doing work right now in an attempt to reverse your aging process, or invest in commercial companies. I don't care how you do it. Please spend some of your money before you wind up in this predicament. So this July, Apple talked about science curing death, and we know that that can stimulate other people to think, well, if they think they can do it, maybe I can do it better. Jeff Bezos is putting big money into technology that will probably enable humans to live a lot longer, including Jeff. And I just want to remind the group who we are. We've been around for a long time. We were the first to introduce a lot of therapies that are now used to save human lives. And I want to remind people also about the delays that we've encountered. Metformin. We did some calculations for our September issue of Life Extension magazine, and based on recent data, it turns out that 3 to 8 million Americans needlessly died because of the delay in approving just one drug, metformin. A 37-year delay cost 3 to 8 million Americans their lives. We've got to break down these barriers if we're going to accelerate technology long enough for us all to live a lot longer. Thank you very much.
This concludes our special report on the Conference on Human Age Reversal. I'm Maya Brandt, and thank you for being with us.